Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day and a great week out there so far. It's a hump day. We're halfway through the week, a little bit closer to that weekend. Here to talk about the weather between now and the next 24 hours. And kind of like we do sometimes, we'll extend it a little bit into our Thursday, so the next really 48 hours for certain areas of the country. The main topics in this morning's video is going to be flooding, severe weather risk, which actually has increased for today from yesterday to a slight risk, even a tornado threat across areas to the south. And we'll talk about a little winter weather, but winter weather isn't a big story for today, really going forward over the next couple days. But we will have a little bit of icing out there, a little bit of snow that's falling out there across the northeast. We'll talk about the west, where another system's already moved in this morning, a little bit more rain. So we'll speak on that. We'll get very detailed for these areas that are going to see some significant weather today, that flooding risk and the severe weather risk like for areas of the south. So we'll break it all down for you folks. Stay tuned for the end of the video if you're interested. We will talk about the pattern going forward throughout the rest of the work week into this weekend. We are watching a winter storm risk across areas of the northeast that we need to figure out. There's some question marks on it. It could do something kind of weird where, we'll discuss it in detail, especially tonight. Stay tuned for tonight's video. We'll talk in detail on that system. We'll, of course, go a little bit further into maybe the first couple days of February and start to take a peek into the month of February and see what we got going forward. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And, if you notice I take a break in the evenings, don't do as many evening videos. Just taking advantage of a little bit more of a quiet period. It's certainly not quiet for everybody. For example, we're having flash flood warnings across the south right now with a severe weather risk, but just taking a breather because I do have a hunch, I do have that feeling that it's going to get active again in February. February has been a very quiet month winter weather-wise for the last several years. Not for everybody. I can't speak for the South Central U.S. in February of 2021 was certainly very active, but for a lot of areas like the Southeast and the Eastern U.S., February has kind of been non-existent as far as winter weather-wise, but I just got a hunch that that's going to change this year. So just taking a breather in some of these evening videos, not trying to overwork myself, kind of trying to pace myself. So just want to let you guys know that. But if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can do it and so others can see it and do it also. Let's get rocking and rolling. So we do have a little bit of flakes flying around. It's very cold in Maine, but you don't have to work yourself very far southwest throughout the northeast into the mid-Atlantic before you warm up dramatically. But Maine's locked into some pretty cold temperatures, so there is some cold air still locked into the northeast. We do have some flakes flying around, probably accumulating to light snowfall accumulations. It was kind of a wintry day across the northeast yesterday. We had some light to maybe even moderate snow flying across southern New England yesterday, but we won't see as much of that today, but we could still see some of it this morning. A lot of rain surging into the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, and even the southern Great Lakes region. These areas that saw freezing rain over the last day or so, just seeing good old rain now. But you can see all these orange boxes. That's flash flood warnings right now. No severe thunderstorm warnings as of right now, but a lot of heavy rain moving over some of the same areas, and that'll be the common theme over the next couple of days in this area of the country. Then we got another system kind of looking like the same as the last few systems, moving into the Pacific Northwest, Central and Northern California, that's delivering even more moisture, higher elevation snow. So these will be the main topics in this morning's video. But the Rockies, Central Rockies, and the central portion of the country is pretty quiet. So we got severe weather to talk about again, and this has increased for today's outlook from yesterday, which this was day 2 yesterday, and now we're at day 1 because this is right now. There is now a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 in the yellow, level 1 out of 5 in the dark green. So this does include New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and basically, southern and southeastern portions of Louisiana and southwestern areas of Mississippi. So what is this for? Well, if you look at the tornado risk of this, there is a 5% risk of a tornado in this brown area of a tornado within. There's basically a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. The ingredients are there. It's not high-end ingredients for like a tornado outbreak, but they are certainly there today for some spin-ups. We'll talk more in detail on that here in a second. The wind risk, there is a 15% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots or higher within 25 miles in a given location, which is always that criteria. That's 55 to 60 miles per hour. Hail threat, not as big of a deal today as the conditions in the atmosphere don't really support as much hail. But We look at the flash flooding risk. This, I would argue, is just as much of a big deal as a severe weather risk. But we have this moderate risk, which is at least a 40% risk of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles in a given location, basically right on top of that severe weather risk. So we're already getting a ton of rain right now. This is not something that's going to develop later on today. I mean, you folks that are tuning in from this area of the country, I think that obviously you're like, well, duh, Mitch, it's pouring right now. But this will continue to be the case. As rounds of heavy rain and storms will just train over the same areas. Train means they'll literally just kind of ride up into the same regions. And this is because there's no real mechanism like pushing this flow of moisture one way or the other right now. The high pressure is just over here, just kind of anchored in one spot. It'll very slowly begin to move to the southeast, but right now it's just kind of chilling. So flood watch is up for areas of the green. Those kind of red areas, that's flash flood warnings, but flood watch is now extended all the way into a couple counties in southwest North Carolina, all of North Georgia. And if you're wondering what all this gray is, that's dense fog advisories. This typically happens when you got a warmer, moist atmosphere that comes up in the colder months and clashes with cold air, things like that. But you do have the lingering winter weather advisories up for the Northeast, but not a whole lot of alerts out west. This system that's moving in now is not going to be anything super unusual. But we'll take a broad look at the Southeast first. We are having some showers that are pushing into the Carolinas this morning. It was raining on me a little bit outside when I was working out. So here in central South Carolina. So we are getting already that moist feed ahead of this main rain and storm system that we're going to get in the Southeast here in the next couple of days. But all this rain, just abroad, and we're going to zoom into this. But you see all the rain kind of surging through Mississippi later this afternoon. Then it gets into Alabama late afternoon, starts to move into the Birmingham region, Tuscaloosa later this evening. We're getting rain all the way up into Tennessee, into Kentucky, kind of falling on the lingering snowpack that you got left up here. But typically when dew points really rise, folks, a lot of people think that temperatures is what melts the snow, and it is. But a lot of people don't realize that your higher dew points really takes a toll on snowpack too, with all that moisture in the atmosphere with temperatures that are very warm. I mean, this will knock out, basically nuke a snowpack in a heartbeat. But we're getting into this evening. The rain begins to inch into the eastern sections of Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, and then it finally starts to ooze into areas of basically the southern Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. And then it starts to rain probably in the middle of the night pretty heavily in Atlanta. Rain is beginning to move a little bit further deeper into Georgia, into central Georgia, southeast Alabama, and then we got just more rounds of rain following behind this initial push of showers and storms behind this. And we're going to have a severe weather threat probably tomorrow also. But a little bit closer look at this because I really want to zoom in on this flooding threat and severe weather risk. The biggest severe weather risk is going to be into these feeder bands right into here. So this is the main push of moisture. If you're confused about what time frame we're at, this is around 10 a.m. Central Time because we're showing you Mississippi, Louisiana, which is in Central Time. So this is showing in Eastern Time, but back to something 1 hour. So it's 10 a.m. I keep moving here. This is around lunchtime, 1 p.m. today. And what you don't see on this map that I'm about to show you are dew points rising well into the upper 60s, even low 70s into this area. So you check that off the box as a thermodynamic for an ingredient for severe weather. So these storms have plenty of basically moisture in the atmosphere to really feed off of. So that's an ingredient that's already there. Check it off the box. Once you start to get a little bit further north into these storms, not as high-end dew points in the area. But if you're not familiar with the severe weather ingredients, once you get dew points into the 60s, that really starts to support severe weather. But you can get severe weather and dew points in the 50s too. We'll talk about that when we need to. There's no point in getting into that right now. But you see all these storms down here in Louisiana. You got to watch out for all these. It's around 1 p.m. and you start to get into about 5 p.m. Look at these storms working into Alabama. I don't think the severe weather risk will be as high for this, but this still will be there. But you got to watch all these storms around Baton Rouge and just southeast Louisiana, all these areas. And, you know, this will eventually, you got to watch these storms into like New Orleans a little bit later this afternoon, really this evening, and just a lot of rain. And then this continues to kind of chug on through. And then we got to watch these storms overnight too. It's about 2 a.m. tonight. You still got storms, and there's still going to be a severe weather risk. And then you got more moisture that pulls in behind that for tomorrow morning. But one thing I want you to notice is watch how all these storms kind of just go over the same areas right in here. Kind of just riding over the same areas. There's no real push it to the south. To the north, there's a little bit more of a push. So talking about the severe weather, there's your dew points. All right, we'll take a little bit deeper into the morning. Look at these dew points getting into around 70 in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, the Bayou of Louisiana. Man, that is a pretty rich, moist sector that's kind of scrawny, kind of small, just tucked into southern Louisiana and then southern Mississippi. But it's there. I mean, you got dew points just starting to creep into the low 70s. So there's definitely a lot of moisture in the atmosphere for severe weather. And the next thing you look at is kinematics, which what kind of wind flow aloft, or what kind of favorable wind flow do you have to feed into this severe weather event? And you look at these pockets of this low-level jet, which is winds about a mile up in the air, about 4,000 to 6,000 feet up in the air, give or take 1,000 or 100. But, you got basically a 35, 45, 50-knot low-level jet riding over this area, feeding over into these storms. And this is the concern right in here. So you got winds aloft that support this. You do. So we need to be weather aware in this area. I know you're getting just a lot of flooding risk right now, but there could be a big, I wouldn't say a big time, I got to watch my wording here, but there could be definitely a severe weather risk. We've seen only those slight risks overachieved sometimes. Updraft velocity swath, this doesn't always tell the story, but this is the latest one, and yeah, this is the latest one. No, unless we can actually go to this. Nope, not 11Z, this one. And there it is. I think that shows it a little bit better, a little bit further southwest, but around Baton Rouge and almost up to Jackson. But this area, even close to Hattiesburg, even a little bit of a signal getting into the overnight hours into Alabama. But this region right here is really showing some spin. These highlighted colors just indicate where this run of the HRRR model was saying where these thunderstorms could be spinning. That doesn't mean they're going to drop a tornado. That just means that think of this as just areas to watch out for. And it really likes this area, southern Mississippi, but I mean, it's also going to be down here in Alabama too. I'm sorry, Louisiana. Just because you don't see it right in this area, don't mean it's not going to happen. It's just probably where this run of the HRRR model did not show a lot of rain over that area. Speaking of rain, Thursday morning, this takes us through just the Thursday morning, folks. Look at all this rain down here in southern Louisiana. Some of this has already fell. You already probably gotten a few inches of rain, but it's going for 4 to 5 inches between now and Thursday morning in Jackson. I mean, Hattiesburg, 3 to 4 inches of rain, folks. I mean, just a lot of rain in southern Louisiana. I mean, all of Mississippi is going to get over an inch of rain at least. And this is starting to move into Alabama, and we'll go on and just take it all the way out to Friday morning. Almost all of Alabama gets at least 2 inches of rain. We'll see if that actually verifies. And then this starts to move into Georgia. Look up here in Tennessee between now and the next 48 hours. Almost everybody in Tennessee gets almost an inch to inch and a half of rain. So this is definitely a soaker moving in. The Northeast today, you're dealing with the flakes flying around. I think that these will taper off. You could get left a little bit of lingering freezing drizzle in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, depending on your elevation. And then the next system that moves in is bringing rain, just rain in Buffalo, Erie, Ohio, just a light and moderate rain event this afternoon. And this begins to overspread all of the mid-Atlantic, just about the Northeast, even some rain showers down here in Washington, D.C., moderate to heavy rain falling in western West Virginia, southeast Ohio, Kentucky. And man, just rain falling on top of the snowpack up here. This will help to melt the snow very quickly. Buffalo, you're going to have to melt it in like supersonic speed to really put a dent in y'all's snowfall. The snow is still on the ground from all the snow that you got over the last couple weeks, but there could be just enough cold air lingering around for this to fall as a wintry mix in these higher elevations, these favored areas of Vermont and New Hampshire. And there is enough cold air hanging around in Maine, but this is just going to be a light, moderate rain across southern New England. And it could be another snow event across central to northern Maine. And, there's just enough cold air just kind of lingers around. This continues. We get into tomorrow morning, still light rain falling across New York City and surrounding region area. And, might get a little bit break by the time you get into tomorrow evening. But rainfall between now and Thursday morning, just a quarter inch to inch amounts across this region. Most of this will be rain. We take it all the way out to about Friday morning, and some areas will have about an inch of rain. Just kind of find your area. In general, it looks like half inch to an inch and a quarter totals A little bit more rain showing up in western West Virginia, southeast Ohio. But, we look at snowfall between now and the next 48 hours. And we're going to have to go back and look at this. And, we'll actually go all the way out to about Saturday morning. They're going for, a few to several inches of wet snow up here in Maine. And a couple inches of snow, just basically what's falling right now between now and the next 12 to 24 hours. So the south central U.S., we spoke mostly on Louisiana southeast frame. I need to do better about, sometimes I'll say Louisiana is in the southeast frame. And then sometimes I'll say Louisiana is in the south and the south central frame. So I'll definitely emphasize that in the timestamps when I set them up later this morning when I dropped the video. But rainfall, heavy at times, moving across the southeast areas of Texas here. Look at all this rain continuing. Now, there's still going to be a severe weather risk down here in Houston. I feel like I saw a video somewhere around the coastal sections of Texas of a tornado yesterday. I'm not sure. Maybe I had a dream about that. I don't know. But, you're getting into this afternoon, and it's still raining in eastern Texas. A little bit of shower activity continuing to make its way into southern Arkansas. Some showers are possible in the panhandle of Texas also. A little bit of shower activity up here in Kansas. You get into this evening, and you might get a little bit of break, but you're probably still getting a lot of drizzle. Even some isolated downpours kind of making its way into southeast New Mexico, western Texas. And then another round of moisture gets going later this evening across central and eastern Texas, and you'll start to add some more rain. This could be a round of thunderstorms, could get some rumbles of thunder that kind of slashes through eastern Texas into areas of like northwest Louisiana, maybe all the way into southern Arkansas. And this continues, and we're waking up tomorrow morning, and it's still raining pretty good in southeast sections of Texas, and another storms are moving through Louisiana. So rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, another few to maybe even several inches of rain depending on your location, especially the closer you get to Louisiana. But another few inches of rain is possible in this area in southeast Texas. Houston could get another 3 to 4 inches of rain, but we'll take it all the way out to Friday. It doesn't add up much more. Stays about the same. So north central U.S., rain's moving into northern sections of Illinois. If it's not moving in already, it'll continue. You'll start to get some rain this afternoon all the way up into central Michigan. Light rain falling in Chicago. This is not any wintry weather this time. So basically rain's going to fall on top of any kind of snow you got, like yesterday and the day before in these areas of the country. But the rain will continue. It'll just be kind of a wet, dreary day across Michigan. This is a time of the year where it's supposed to be snowing, but it will just be light rain. A little bit of cold air tries to sink in, and I think sometime tonight you could get a little bit of light freezing rain, freezing drizzle up here in Wisconsin. And as we're getting into tomorrow, could get a little bit more. It's not really showing up very well on the HRRR model, but another push of light rain moves into the Midwest. This is getting into tomorrow evening, so we're getting kind of far out. And then I think that we could get just some light freezing rain, maybe a little bit of light sleet action as we get into tomorrow in this area. And in fact, between now and Friday morning, a couple 1/100ths of an inch of ice is forecast up here in the central UP of Michigan, even a little bit here in lower Michigan, and just kind of splotches of areas here throughout Wisconsin, Iowa, southeast Minnesota. Not a big deal, I don't think. Maybe somebody sneaks in here in the lower portion of the UP, maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice. So out west, we got this big system moving in. The HRRR model is really depicting it well, really. So we keep this going, and moisture will continue to overspread, move into the Rockies, and we'll start to by the time we get into like early this afternoon, we're just getting kind of rounds of showers, some heavier bursts of rain, heavier bursts of snow in the higher elevations. Some of this rain will begin to inch a little bit further south into California, but I do not think it's going to make it down to LA or San Diego. But, we got this area of heavier moisture kind of surging through eastern Oregon, getting into Idaho, getting into northern Nevada later tonight. And snow levels might drop enough that we're waking up to some snow flying around for the favorite areas in Idaho. But even some of these lower elevations could be getting some snow. Some heavier bursts of snow around Elko, Nevada, northern Nevada, and northeast sections of the state. And then we got some moisture that moves into northern Utah as we're getting into tomorrow morning. I think Salt Lake City might just be too warm for this system, but we'll see what happens. The Olympic Mountains, the Cascades, you folks will be getting snow tomorrow morning. And we'll continue to get into tomorrow afternoon, and it looks like it's going to be a quieter day in general. So rainfall between now and Friday morning. And now obviously some of this is snow, but you see the stripe of precipitation that kind of rides and cuts through the Rockies. Just a quarter inch, maybe a half an inch in liquid equivalent here. And you see Northern California looks wet, but Southern California looks pretty dry. But you look at snowfall, of course, it's going to add up in the Cascades, the Rockies, just the general theme, just a few inches. The valley regions of Idaho, I think you'll stay mainly rain, especially based off what the National Weather Service is showing. But just continuous snow out here west in the favorite areas. Temperatures, you're warming to well above average now. The only area that's going to stay locked into a winter-type feel is Maine. It's pretty much the only state in this frame that you see. But, man, they're getting into the 60s all the way into West Virginia, folks. I mean, you'll probably sneak in a 60-degree reading all the way into southern sections of Ohio and Illinois. 70s in the south. They're getting into the 80s in Florida. Got a little bit of cold air trapping down into Texas. But, man, it's a totally different week compared to last week, right, for you folks in the Mid-South and sections of the Deep South. So out west, temperatures are in general a little bit above average unless we have rain falling. Yeah, just in general a little bit warm still out here, but, stay tuned to your local people for sure. Moving forward, this is the excessive rainfall outlook for tomorrow, so you do have a slight risk. We'll see if this uptrends to a moderate risk. But as of now, just a slight risk. That means you got at least a 15% chance of flash flood guidance within 25 miles in a given location. We are expecting a lot of rain to start to move a little bit further east in the Deep South and the Southern Alps region. And then there is a severe weather risk for tomorrow. We'll see if this uptrends to a slight risk. As of now, just a level 1 out of 5. This includes kind of sections of the Gulf coastline and areas of the Deep South. So we'll see what happens going forward. I do want to mention, and we'll talk more on this tonight, there is a risk at day 4, which if you don't know what day that is for our Saturday. And they're watching a system, and basically they discuss down here an upper trough will be what causes enough ingredients for severe weather, but they already have a slight risk for day 4. This does include Birmingham, Atlanta, Columbus, Montgomery, down to Dothan, in this yellow area. So this will be probably a heavy topic moving forward over the next couple of days, and we're just in a warmer pattern. It's a January thaw, and typically in a January thaw, you get a risk of severe weather. So we'll discuss this more in tonight's video, but that is new from this morning. But in general, over the next few days, we'll take a look at the latest GFS. We're going to continue to get this feed. Watch this high pressure as it kind of pivots to the east. And as it does, the moisture, kind of the slug of moisture starts to flow. It continues to do the same flow, right? But the flow kind of shifts to the east. And we'll keep this going. There's another system. And then here comes another one. There's another one. But then the high pressure is kind of leaving the region. And then sort of a cold high kind of moves into place. And here's another system. This is the one we watch. This is getting into Saturday afternoon. We got a system flying across. It's cutting west of the Appalachian Mountains. It's definitely an Ohio Valley cutter here. And there could be enough cold air on top of this for some wet snow. Northern Indiana. We kind of talked about this a little bit in the last couple of videos. But watch what happens here. Looks like high pressure tries to build on top of the storm, tries to suppress it. Therefore, it moves more so west to east. Therefore, the moisture on top of this starts to switch to some wet snow. And this continues. Maybe an additional low forms out here out in the Atlantic. And then we got a little bit more cold air to work with. And, we're getting in a Sunday night, Monday morning. So some weird stuff's happening here. You got snow flying around the northeast. Look at this back end northwestern snow event across the Southern Alps. This looks like you switch from rain to snow Sunday night. Could be a decent event. And then this low sort of gets kind of pushed off. And, you're left to a really close call. Look at this heavy snow trying to fall around the Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia area Monday morning. We got to watch this scenario. This is an event that we need to watch. And then after we get into next week, the pattern gets really weird. It does. We get this trough over the Atlantic Canada region, the northeast, and at the same time we got a ridge up into central Canada, and it just gets weird. It does. We got a lot of energy flying around. You can see splotches of green and blue. Here comes this energy diving down. Here comes a low trying to form, and then it gets even more weird once we get like a little bit past that. So that's what we'll discuss in detail tonight, kind of like what we did the other night. But, the Euro, same deal, guys. Just shows a slug of moisture, and then it kind of breaks, and then here comes that storm for this weekend. Okay, this is Sunday afternoon. Got snow falling. A little bit colder of a system, honestly, which is a little bit more surprising from the Euro. Snow falling in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, even western Maryland, getting close to New York City. Then look at that heavy, wet snow Sunday evening across southern New England. And then it heads on out. And then it's done. And then it does some weird stuff here where we have some energy diving down on the western side of this trough, digging here. And it is wild. This thing's just diving straight down. So I'm really thinking we got some interesting times coming up in February. I do. Rainfall between now and Monday morning. A lot of moisture. Some of this falling in the form of wintry weather. Most of it's rain, though. So you notice we got some wet times. It's going to be a wet, damp weekend for a lot of people. So, but I will show you that signal for snow for off the European ensemble for this weekend. And there it is. This is in 24-hour period. So it does show a few inch snowfall mean across these regions, across interior, mid-Atlantic, Alps region, even a little bit in Ohio, even Kentucky. And then you see how it kind of spikes here in sort of the southern New England region, north of New York City, around the I-95 corridor. I don't know if this is going to be your storm, but we'll watch. We'll watch it. It's worth watching. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll have you a video this evening, no doubt. We got some things to figure out, that's for sure. God bless all y'all. Have a great Wednesday.